The latest about Gene Watson is breaking the headlines, and fans everywhere are pausing to listen. At 81 years old, the man whose voice defined an era of country music is still standing strong, still captivating audiences, and still reminding the world why authenticity never goes out of style.
In the image of someone you used to know.
But behind the headlines and beyond the spotlight, there lies a quieter story. A story of home, faith, family, and the secrets that shaped one of country's purest voices. To understand the latest, you must first step back and discover the journey that carried Gene Watson from the fields of Texas to the stages of Nashville, from local radio airplay to the hallowed halls of the Grand Ole Opry. This is more than an update about a performer. It is a story of resilience, timeless artistry, and the man behind the microphone. Born in 1943 in the small town of Palestine, Texas, Gary Gene Watson came into a world that was modest but rich with music. Growing up on a farm, he was surrounded by gospel hymns in church, fiddle tunes at community gatherings, and the steady hum of local radio stations. Country music in those days wasn't just entertainment, it was storytelling, a way of documenting the lives of working families, a way of giving voice to everyday struggles and joys. For Watson, those early experiences planted seeds that would grow into a lifelong devotion to the art of song. He was not born into privilege, nor did fame come overnight. His career, like his voice, was shaped by patience, grit, and authenticity. By the 1960s, Watson was performing in clubs across Texas, his voice already recognized by locals for its purity and strength. He recorded with smaller labels, cut tracks that showed glimpses of greatness, but for years national recognition eluded him. Then came 1975, and with it, a song that would forever alter his destiny. Love in the Hot Afternoon, written by Vince Matthews and Kent Westbury, became his breakthrough. The song climbed to number 3 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles chart, cementing Watson's place on the national stage. It wasn't just the chart position that mattered. It was the way the song showcased his ability to take someone else's words and make them feel lived in, raw, and undeniably personal. For many fans, Love in the Hot Afternoon was their first introduction to Watson, and it left an indelible mark. 50 years later, in 2025, that song is once again at the center of headlines, as Watson celebrates its anniversary with a nationwide tour dedicated to honoring its legacy. The Love in the Hot Afternoon 50th Anniversary Tour has been more than a trip down memory lane. For audiences across the United States, it has become a living history lesson in country music, a reminder of why Watson's voice has been described as timeless. Fans, young and old, gather in theaters and concert halls, some traveling hundreds of miles, to hear him deliver the same song that first moved them decades ago. The response is electric, not because of spectacle or pyrotechnics, but because of a single, unwavering truth. Gene Watson's voice remains intact, pure, and emotionally charged. At 81, when most singers have long lost the sharpness of their prime, he defies time itself. His crystal-clear tenor, capable of hitting high notes with ease while maintaining a natural warmth, still sounds as it did in the 1970s. Critics marvel that his voice has not only endured but thrived, carrying decades of lived experience without losing clarity. What is the secret behind such longevity? Fans and critics alike ask the question, and the answer seems to lie in Watson's discipline and humility. Unlike many performers who lean on effects, Watson has always centered his career on vocal precision. He treats his voice like an instrument requiring constant care, regular exercises, balanced living, and a deep respect for the craft. In interviews, he credits his faith, his family, and his grounded lifestyle in Texas for keeping him centered, even when fame could have pulled him in different directions. At home, away from the applause, he has cultivated a quiet life. He does not live in the glare of Hollywood or the relentless pace of Nashville. Instead, his Texas home is filled with reminders of family, photographs of loved ones, and the serenity that comes from living close to his roots. It is here, in this stillness, that the man behind the microphone finds his strength. Yet Watson's story is not only about endurance, it is about the ability to move audiences through interpretation. Country music is built on storytelling, and Watson's gift has always been to inhabit those stories fully. Songs like Farewell Party, released in 1979, remain fan favorites because of the sheer emotional weight he brings to them. When Watson sings of heartbreak, it feels as though he has lived every word. This ability to channel emotion has led critics to call him the singer's singer. Younger artists look to him as a model of how to interpret a song honestly. His influence stretches far and wide. Artists across generations cite his voice as a standard to aspire to. Unlike some contemporaries who leaned toward pop country, Watson never wavered. He preserved traditional sounds, proving that sticking to authenticity could yield longevity and respect. That respect reached a pinnacle with his induction into the Grand Ole Opry. For any country artist, the Opry represents the highest honor, a recognition that transcends chart success. It is a place where history, tradition, and artistry converge. When Watson stepped onto the Opry stage, it was not merely another performance. It was a coronation, an acknowledgement that his contributions had shaped the very fabric of country music. Audiences at the Opry recall his performances as transcendent. In one memorable duet with the Bellamy brothers, Watson reminded everyone of his unmatched ability to fuse technical perfection with raw emotion. His presence at the Opry continues to inspire. Behind the scenes, he mentors younger artists, offering advice not only on vocal technique, but on the discipline and humility required to sustain a career. For Watson, the Opry is not just a stage. It is a platform for legacy, a space where he can pass on the traditions he has spent a lifetime preserving. The year 2025 has not only brought the anniversary tour, but also a nationwide schedule of performances that prove Watson is not slowing down. From neon-lit streets in Nashville to small-town theaters across America, he continues to meet audiences with the same intensity that marked his early career. His shows are not flashy productions. There are no elaborate screens, no overwhelming lights, just a man, a band, and stories told through song. Each performance feels intimate, like a conversation with the audience. Fans describe them as communal experiences where laughter, tears, and nostalgia flow freely. Parents bring children, grandparents bring grandchildren, and entire families unite under the sound of Watson's voice. The intergenerational reach of his music is remarkable, proof that authentic artistry resonates beyond time. Behind the scenes of these tours lies a man of discipline and humility. Watson is not one to boast. He rarely lets fame inflate his sense of self. At home, he is simply Gene, a husband, a father, a man of faith. The secret to his longevity, many close to him say, lies in this balance between public persona and private life. Unlike many stars, he did not chase the trappings of celebrity. Instead, he invested his time in his family, in his craft, and in maintaining a grounded perspective. This separation between stage and home life has preserved not only his voice, but his spirit. He views each concert not as a routine obligation, but as a sacred exchange with the audience. That mindset, more than anything, explains why his performances remain vibrant even after 6 decades. Reflecting on his career, Watson often emphasizes the power of storytelling. To him, each song is a miniature narrative, a glimpse into human experience that connects across generations. He views himself as a steward of tradition, someone responsible for keeping the roots of country music alive, even as the industry shifts toward commercialism. For Watson, resisting the pull of pop country was never about stubbornness. It was about protecting the integrity of the genre he loved. This commitment has earned him the respect of peers and the loyalty of fans. Younger artists often turn to him for guidance, and he has embraced the role of mentor. He shares wisdom not only about technical skills, but about the deeper responsibilities of artistry, honesty, resilience, and the courage to remain true to one's voice. As Watson looks toward the future of country music, he remains optimistic. He recognizes the challenges, streaming platforms, digital trends, crossover pressures, but he believes the heart of country will endure as long as storytelling remains at its core. He encourages younger artists to embrace technology without losing authenticity, to experiment while honoring tradition. He often points to the steel guitar, the fiddle, and the acoustic guitar as essential instruments of the genre, but he acknowledges that they can coexist with modern sounds. What matters in his eyes is truth. Truth in lyrics, in delivery, in the emotional connection forged between artist and listener. He believes country music's survival depends not on chasing trends, but on preserving its soul. The headlines about Gene Watson in 2025 are not about scandal or controversy. They are about endurance, legacy, and the rare gift of a voice that time cannot erase. They are about an artist who, after more than 50 years, remains as relevant and moving as ever. His 50th anniversary tour, his continued presence on the Opry stage, and his tireless dedication to performing are testaments to a man who has given everything to his craft. But perhaps the true secret behind the headlines is simpler. Gene Watson has never pretended to be anything but himself. He has never compromised his sound, never chased fads, never lost sight of the values that shaped him. In a world where music often bends to the whims of markets, his steadfast authenticity is both rare and refreshing. So when the headlines declare, "The latest about Gene Watson is breaking the headlines," what they are really saying is this: in a time of fleeting fame and disposable hits, a true legend still walks among us. His story is not finished, his voice is not fading, and his presence remains a beacon of what country music was, is, and always should be. For fans who grew up with his songs, for new listeners discovering his catalog on streaming platforms, and for every artist who aspires to sing with honesty, Gene Watson is living proof that artistry rooted in truth will always find an audience. The latest is not simply news, it is a celebration. A celebration of a man whose voice has carried the weight of generations and whose songs will continue to echo long after the spotlight dims. The truth about Gene Watson's latest resurgence is that it's not just about music, it's about memory. Every time he steps on stage and delivers 14 Karat Mind or Nothing Sure Looked Good on You, audiences are not only hearing a performance, they are reliving chapters of their own lives. That's what makes Watson unique. His songs aren't just his. They belong to the people who lived through marriages, breakups, long drives, and quiet evenings with his voice in the background. The breaking headlines capture the news of his anniversary tour, but what they cannot fully measure is the collective weight of nostalgia that follows him everywhere. In each venue, when the lights dim and the first chords play, the room transforms into a tapestry of personal stories stitched together by his music. What surprises many younger fans is that Watson's success was never driven by an obsession with chart positions or platinum records. In fact, while he had plenty of hits in the 1970s and 1980s, he never chased crossover stardom. Unlike some of his contemporaries who adapted their sound to pop country, Watson stayed rooted in traditionalism. At times, that decision meant slower career growth or being overlooked by mainstream radio. But in the long run, it secured him a rare position, an artist untouched by fads. In 2025, as country music cycles through constant stylistic reinventions, Watson's catalog sounds steady, unshaken, like a lighthouse in a storm. Younger performers now cover his songs not out of irony, but out of reverence. For them, Gene Watson is a blueprint for longevity, for surviving in an industry that so often burns through its brightest stars. As part of his anniversary celebration, Watson has also embraced a more modern way of connecting with fans. Social media clips from his shows, uploaded by concert-goers, have gone viral on TikTok and Instagram. It is surreal for some to see teenagers reacting emotionally to songs released decades before they were born, their faces lit up by the sound of a man in his 80s singing about heartbreak and resilience. The fact that Watson has reached a new generation through digital platforms underscores the timelessness of his work. Country music thrives on storytelling, and storytelling, unlike production trends, never ages. When a 16-year-old listens to Farewell Party on a smartphone and cries the same tears their grandparents once cried, it proves Watson's music has transcended time itself. This digital renaissance has also brought renewed critical attention. Major publications have recently profiled Watson, exploring how his music bridges past and present. Critics emphasize the technical control of his voice, comparing him to classical vocalists whose instruments defy age. Others highlight the narrative bravery of his songs, how he was never afraid to sing about pain, failure, and vulnerability in ways that felt deeply human. These reviews often conclude with the same sentiment. Gene Watson may not have always been the loudest or flashiest star, but he remains one of the most truthful. And in 2025, truth is exactly what audiences crave. But there's another layer to the story. Watson's current success also reflects the enduring hunger for authenticity in country music. In a landscape increasingly dominated by polished radio singles, his performances serve as a counterpoint. Fans are reminded that country music was born from the grit of working-class lives, from faith, heartbreak, and perseverance. Watson embodies that heritage. He is not simply performing songs, he is carrying history. His concerts, in a sense, become rituals, moments where tradition is not only remembered, but actively lived. In this way, the breaking headlines about Watson are not merely about one man. They are about an entire genre rediscovering its roots. And through it all, Gene Watson remains humble. In recent interviews, when asked about his legacy, he brushes off grand declarations. "I'm just thankful I can still sing," he says. "As long as people want to hear me, I'll keep showing up." That humility is part of what endears him to fans. They see in him not a distant star, but someone who never lost touch with his beginnings. It's a quality increasingly rare in an age of celebrity branding and social media personas. For Watson, the music has always been enough. As the tour continues and headlines keep coming, one truth becomes clear. Gene Watson is not just revisiting the past. He is actively shaping the present, reminding audiences and artists alike what country music can be when it stays true to itself. 50 years after Love in the Hot Afternoon first introduced his voice to the world, Watson is proving that authenticity, once discovered, never fades. It only deepens with time. And so, the breaking news is not that Gene Watson is still here. The real headline is that he is still vital, still powerful, still moving hearts with the same grace that carried him from a Texas farm to stages across the nation. In every headline, in every article, in every fan's story, the message rings the same. Gene Watson is not just a country singer. He is living history. And as long as he continues to sing, the story of country music will always carry his voice within it.